This is a Power 98.7 podcast. Now we're talking. Subscribe to Power 98.7 podcasts in iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. There's more on power987.co.za.
It is 18 minutes before the top of the hour, 17 minutes before the top of the hour. And we're in conversation this morning with Loyiso Skweyiya, who's the founder and managing director of A2Z or A2Z Tech Solutions. And this morning we're zooming into transforming teaching and student learning experience through artificial intelligence. We have the very pleasant Loyiso in studio. Loyiso, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you. Good morning.
We appreciate your time, Loyiso. Let's go right into it. AI.
Yeah.
And the use of AI in education in particular. We were talking earlier on about ChatGPT, for example, which is a subset. It's not AI itself. It's a subset. Yeah. It's a product that is as a result of AI. When you're saying that we can transform teaching and student learning using AI, please take us through the background of that and how that comes about in the context of South Africa,
Yeah. So, Teresa, thank you so much. And a very good morning to your listeners as well. So AI is basically a hot subject, as we know. And it's slowly, being adopted in many countries. Obviously in South Africa, it's fairly new.
Yeah.
And I think the adoption of AI would be is going to be a big challenge in South Africa. Mainly because, if we look at the policy making and, the lawmakers as well, this AI story might, take some time because things need to go through parliament, bills need to be passed, there's concerns about data privacy, people's personal privacy and space. So at the moment, I just think personally, we always, lagging behind in terms of adopting technology across, compared to other countries across the globe. But I think AI is not such a bad thing. If we leverage off the technology is great.
Absolutely.
Machine learning is great. Deep learning is great if it's, it's for the right cause. So I think basically for sectors like education, it's very important that we don't sort of block it out, or we don't, look at it as it's going to come in and, be surveillance on our children, be like intrusion in terms of their privacy and all of that. If we use it right, we can actually, leverage and get a lot out of it. I think, for example, if we look at what we're doing in that space of AI, we basically introducing a new solution in the classroom where it's mainly about the administration and the management of the classroom.
Okay.
Right. Not so much about the teaching and learning, right? We've got other products that focus on that. But the most exciting one for us is how to, look at how to administrate and manage and reporting of class attendance. That's number one. So we're leveraging out of our flagship product, which is our an interactive smartboard. And this particular smartboard basically has the built-in camera. So we're using some of our, custom generated scripts to run, facial recognition on the number of learners in the classroom. To count, number one, how many learners do you have in the classroom? Secondly is who is the learner that's in the classroom against their student card ID number or learner ID.
Integrated to Department of Home Affairs?
Well, not at the moment. It's just running it from the smartboard.
Okay.
And just that reporting is mainly for, the principals, just to basically keep track of, who's present, who's not present, who's running late, that kind of thing. And you start drawing patterns from there, in terms of the learners coming late. Why are they coming late? So I think we're just deep diving into understanding, what would be the cause of the learners coming late, right? What would be, then we'll also look at, what are some of the assumptions that we can draw. If a learner is actually missing 2 or 3 classes, of their particular subject in that particular month or in that particular quarter or whatever it is. So we're just trying to maybe, apart from just looking at, symbols and percentages, how they're actually doing in class, performance and other stuff, right? Which is the norm. We've all went through that sort of, measurement, even during our time when we were studying. But I think in this time, we should actually take it a little bit further, right? Where we get to understand, we're also going to draw intelligence in terms of the weather. If the weather is, terrible, maybe the learner has a valid reason to be late in class, right? Maybe there's a taxi strike. So we're going to draw that intelligence into the interactive smartboard. We're also going to look at learner behavior as well. So things like how much are they engaged? How much interest do they have in the particular subject, using this camera? Yeah.
And if I may go in just right there, Loyiso, in that my next question was to say, what's the difference between this particular smartboard or the tool in itself and a learner management system? And, I'm getting there's a whole lot of data analysis really that's coming in as opposed to what a LMS would have provided, because that one would have been for documentation, for admin. But now you're saying that actually we're at a point where in South Africa, for example, they say that the average grade 5 learner cannot comprehend what they're reading. And you're saying that here's a tool that has additional data that'll be able to help a solution for different sets of problems faced by learners.
Yeah. So there is actually a bill that's in discussion at the moment. It's called a Bella Bill. So in this Bella Bill, there's a lot of proposals. Some of the things are just, emphasizing or sort of like making sure that we just adhere to our constitution, right? Constitution says, every child has a right to education. And there are some stakeholders that should actually make sure that the learner is actually getting education. So you can't take away the responsibility of a parent making sure that the child is at school, right? That's number one. Then you also have the teacher have a responsibility as well. Teachers, the governing body has a responsibility as well. The principal also has a responsibility. So with our solution, we just basically giving them the technology to leverage off, right? Because I think what we found is that a teacher can actually become a teacher, a policeman, and a psychologist in one, right?
100%.
So if you have now, children that are not coming to class, right? You put in that responsibility on the teacher, right? You expect the teacher to, when they actually do class attendance, to mark that learner absent, whatever, right? If there's, for example, drug trafficking in the classroom, right? And there's alcohol in the classroom, you expect them to be a policeman, right? To confiscate that, take them to the police station, charge them and all those things, right? Then you take them to psychologists and all of those things. But a teacher cannot be all of those things,
not enough
right?
capacity.
They don't, right? Some of them, they're not even trained for that. So we basically just enhancing or equipping the schools basically with the technology just to monitor that, right? Because sometimes, most of the time, the teacher has his or her back, towards the learners, or facing the chalkboard or facing the smartboard. So during that time, our built-in camera basically is running the analytics, right? And looking at the kids in terms of how they're behaving, right? During that time, are they actually falling asleep? Are there any sharp objects? We've built in a lot of intelligence into it,
So who does the alert go to? I mean, if the camera, for example, picks up a sharp object or an intrusive object who does the alert go to in the classroom? Live alert.
So that live alert, we built an app that goes to the principal.
Okay.
Right? So it's the principal that primarily gets all the notifications, right? And in some cases, we'll build like a web interface where they can log in. And then also, it is our wish that we also, send those notifications to parents as well, especially attendance reports, right? On a daily schedule or a weekly, routine, so that they're always like in touch with what's happening. with their learners. Because sometimes they drop off their kids on the school grounds, they walk into the gates of the facilities of the school, but the assumption is that, they're at school, they're going to go into class.
But their last scene was at the gate.
At the gate, yeah. They don't go into the classroom, they bunk. And what you want to do now is, just make sure that you put measures that are a bit strict for learners to be in class, bums on the seats, and make sure that there's actual teaching and learning in the classroom, as opposed to just, this whole thing of sometimes we feel like education in South Africa is, by the way, there's no strict measures. Whether a kid is actually in class or not, it's not anyone's responsibility, really, right?
But it's also not entirely true, because there are disciplinary measures, I get, that are being put in certain schools. But here's a tool that can enhance, and sort of close out the capacity shortage. Because in some instances, it's a capacity conversation, not necessarily a lack of discipline. Because we have painted this picture as there's no discipline in South African schools, and that's not entirely true. There are many problematic areas.
I think we're facing a lot of social challenges, right? So one of the things is we know that there's bullying in schools, right? We know there's abuse and harassment in the classrooms, and it's a fact, right? It's things that are out there. We've seen in some cases, learners that are actually abusing or harassing their own teachers, right?
Yeah.
And vice versa. We've seen teachers also doing the same thing, sexual harassment and all of that. So sometimes it's difficult to even report on those things, right? Because there's no evidence of such. So what we've built is that every time our analytics are running, it's actually capturing snapshots in intervals of like 5 seconds. Every 5 seconds, every 10 seconds, it's running, and captures some images. So, for example, someone asked me, how do you make sure that if you say the learner was not in class, right? What proof do you have that the learner was not there? Because
what do you mean?
Maybe there might be a bug in your system and it didn't capture, right? The proof that we have is that there are images, right? There's data that is taken and stored on the local drive, and if parents want to actually see what you are actually saying by them being absent, then we just pull out the data and say, so here's the image, right? If you think that the data is lying, then you should point out on where your child is, right? So we've seen that our system is almost like 99% accurate in terms of picking up learners.
Which is good.
So we've trained it for some time. We've been running this system now for 2 years.
Okay.
Building it,
piloting in specific schools,
testing it, and all kinds of things. So we're now looking at commercially running it, putting out the solution in the market, and seeing what it can do. And we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Some schools are excited about it.
Yeah.
Obviously, we've got challenges in other schools about it.
And it's okay. Requirements. Our requirements are different.
Yeah.
Our requirements are different. I mean, Khomoto Malerai on Twitter is saying what Loyiso is presenting would be super helpful in reducing admin burden for education staff. And she says in LSEN, I'm not sure what this is, and she says autism in brackets. Classes, we use interactive smart boards a lot, especially because our kids respond to visual and interaction teaching, etc. Yeah. Interactive teaching, etc. Is that a market that you have also looked into in terms of schools with special needs?
So there is obviously, like a computer has now I've forgotten what they call it. There's a word for it. Accessibility tools, right? Okay. So those accessibility tools, obviously, it's sounds, right, for people that are probably, blind. We're actually working with a lady. I don't know if I should mention her name. I don't think she'd be happy if I mention her name. Okay. We're working with her, and she basically is blind. Sometimes, it's offensive to say it's blind, visually impaired.
Yeah.
we're working with her. She's, helping us to build, some of our solutions and all of that. But already our smart board is already built with accessibility tools where the sounds, it will tell you where, what you're touching and, present you with the keyboard and actually tell you how the keyboard is laid out and all of that. So there are no, solid, technologies at the moment. I know even with her phone, she uses an iPhone. There's, some tools as well with iPhone that she has there. But it's not always like 100% accurate in terms of how, they sort of like learn how to use it over time.
Someone who's curious is asking around, Loyiso, what's your background? Because this is a very complex issue that you're solving for. You've got very complex solutions that you've put there. Complex but simple in terms of accessible. They are very accessible, right? And the question is around your background, to say, what is Loyiso's background?
So I've been in the IT industry for 15 years.
Okay.
I worked basically for, all kinds of companies, even publicly listed companies. At some point I worked for IBM. I was the cloud lead at IBM. Axis, which is a company that falls under the Alviva group in the JSE listed companies. So the cloud and, automation space, I basically learned, during that time. By qualification, marketing. However, that I found
that's a significant switch. That is a significant switch.
Yeah. So no, it's not actually. Marketing and sales you need it, right? Primarily for any business.
100%, but the language the coding language.
Well, I'm not the one coding, right? So
you're not the one. There we go.
So we've got engineers, a team of engineers that are actually coding. 9 engineers that develop, full stack guys that can write, languages in Python, PHP, all kinds of languages. So basically, what we do is, as marketers, we come up with the ideas, right? And you sit down. So our business is broken down into two. There's the commercial business and there's the R&D business.
Okay.
So the R&D business just continuously, comes up with solutions that we put to them. So, I'm not that great. I'm not an IT guru. I'm just an idea guy.
You get the work done.
I get the work done.
Stuff done.
I get the team together.
I love it.
And then we deliver on the goods.
I absolutely love that. That is Loyiso Skweyiya. And this is, Loyiso, where can we access this tool in terms of just learning a little bit more on the online platforms?
So commercially, it's still not out there yet. We should be launching it in about a month from now. You guys watch the space, our socials as well. A2Z Tech Solutions, I think, in all the socials. And our website is www.a2ztech.co.za. Just follow us, watch the space. Interesting stuff coming.
I love that. That's A2Z Tech Solutions. And this morning we're talking conversations around advancing learning solutions and learning for advancing learning capabilities for learners through AI. And that is Loyiso Skweyiya. It's been a beautiful morning. I've had a great time standing here with you. And the Power Breakfast team is joining you from now till 9 o'clock. Good morning.
You've been listening to a Power 98.7 podcast. For more podcasts, visit power987.co.za or subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.